Welcome to the Productivity Podcast. Today we're going to be talking all things making restaurants more efficient and productive. And I'm delighted to be joined by two guys I've got to know quite well through lockdown, Orin Wilson and Will Clem, who are the co-founders of Bite Ninja. Hi, Orin. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having us.
Good. Hi, Will. How are you?
Hey, doing great.
Good. So, Will, I think we'll start with you. Everybody who comes on, we just get them to give a bit of a biography about their career, what they did before they were doing their role today. So it'd be great if you could tell us a bit about yourself, how you got to meeting Orin, how you founded Bite Ninja, and what you did before.
Yeah, thanks. The company that we have is Bite Ninja, and basically what this is cloud labor for restaurants. So you take your drive-through and front counter position, and we're outsourcing these positions to trained freelancers working from home offices. The way we got into this, it's kind of a roundabout way. Long story short, I invested in restaurants, and we have restaurants. It's even part of the family business. It's been around since the 1960s. The family business is a really traditional business that, for example, their accounting system is spiral notebooks. Their point of sale is non-existent. It's a cash register. But ours, we take a lot of the same family business type recipes, and we try to add a lot of the technology that makes us more productive, I think. So we call it a separate business from the family business, but we're more or less doing the same thing. We've got restaurants in the Memphis, Tennessee area back in the States. These customers are, for the most part, coming through the drive-through window. So in the United States, almost all of these quick serve businesses, the way they make money is through a drive-through window. So not as common in Europe, but for example, McDonald's and Wendy's and our restaurants, it's like 90% of the restaurant revenue comes through this drive-through window. The COVID problem, where it became really difficult to hire folks. And Orin, you can jump in here too anytime, but this is kind of where Orin came in, and we teamed up on a really good idea here.
Yeah, I can jump in real quick. So my background is more with business services, big data, tech companies. I co-founded an acquisitions group where we would acquire a lot of business service groups and almost treat it like a data company, to where you can examine problems that companies are having and help them with solutions and things like that. Will and I connected a while back because we knew that you could take a restaurant franchise and build a lot of standardized systems and technology that allows it to grow a lot more quickly. And staffing has always been one of the difficult things. That just any Friday night or Saturday night, you can expect that half the people probably are just going to no-show. And one of the cool things about Bite Ninja is we just came up with the idea of, maybe the person doesn't even need to be in the store to work there. And we quickly built up some technology to, accommodate that vision, and ran it in stealth mode for a good year before officially launching. We applied through Y Combinator. We connected with a gentleman named Ron Shigeta with iAccelerate.tech, kind of a pre-incubator incubator. We went through Y Combinator and have just realized that the entire world is really struggling with the same problems we did, even just in a smaller case study, which is it's very difficult to hire. I mean, inflation is causing wages to go all over the place. And by redistributing that opportunity to a lot of different places, and then us building the systems to filter and qualify individuals to work those shifts, now the restaurants basically can turn on a switch and have 40% of their workforce always be there and always perform really well. It's been a pretty exciting journey. I think both Will's restaurant experience and some experience out in Silicon Valley doing fundraising before, and then a lot of my experience with remote tech labor companies made for a good fit to build out a lot of this.
Yeah, I think it's a really neat story, and I, as you know, the conversations we've had, I really buy into what you guys are trying to do. So a couple of questions. One, we'll start with you, Orin. How did you get the name? Who thought of it?
So a lot of times with business names, I'll just go to a domain website and we'll just throw words at a wall and I'll see if the domain exists. And the way our, I guess now they're called ninjas, and pop in to the different interface with the customer for these restaurants. Like I can be sitting at home and jump into a restaurant in California and jump into one in Florida. And so it's kind of like a ninja being able to hop in and out. And we just typed biteninja.com, it popped up. And then we just had all these ideas for what the logos could look like, and it just went from there.
Cool. And Will, from a kind of experiential point of view, as a customer, I go to the drive-through, order point, I'll speak to one of your ninjas, that'll get relayed. Let's say it's ordering a coffee to the screen for the barista to make the coffee. I'll drive through, pick up my coffee and donut and drive off. So from a customer point of view, it's seamless. There's no difference.
That's right. There's two versions of this. There's an audio only version that feels very natural. If we have that version out there, you're probably, from a customer point of view, you're not even going to know that the cashier taking your order is not in the restaurant. We've got a kind of more fancy version where we can add a nice big 50-inch screen to the drive-through, and then it's the same feel, but it's more of a futuristic version where you've got this smiling face smiling back at you and talking to you, and we'll say, "Hey, I'd like a coffee," and then it would pop up all of the options where you could put in your coffee. It's a couple of different versions there, but the goal is to not really change the workflow from the restaurant. So if the Bite Ninja, while working from home, really feels like they're part of the crew, and in between customers during the slow period, they'll kind of talk to the staff and say, "Hey, where are you from?" And they'll kind of feel like part of the group, and they really appreciate the service.
A big smiling face in the UK probably doesn't translate that well, so it's probably a slightly moody, grumpy face. Probably goes down. But I think that's an important point, Will, in terms of the teams. Your ninjas are trained through the organizations that they work for. They go through their training program, they understand the product, they can get real-time feedback both ways if things are out of stock or they're upselling certain things and being pushed to sell more. So it's a two-way thing, but they're not just blind to that organization. They have all that background around it as well.
Yeah, that's it. And, and the work from home movement, I mean, that touches so many industries, but especially restaurants. And the reason is, it's any kind of restaurant that's really bursty. So you think about restaurants. For most of the day, it's just really not busy. And then at lunchtime and dinner time, just kaboom, you just get hit with this crazy rush that's very short-lived. So at our restaurants, it's maybe like 11:30 a.m. until 1 o'clock. So it's an hour and a half. You're just crazy busy for lunch hour. But what do you do if you're a restaurant manager? You need to hire a staff to account for that. And even if you hire as much as your payroll can possibly provide, and you're able to staff it, you're still going to be crazy understaffed for that rush period. But what happens at 1 o'clock when just demand falls off a cliff? Well, you got a couple options. You can turn to your cashiers and say, "Okay, rush is over. Everybody clock out and go home." But that's not reasonable. You can't ask someone to come in, work an hour and a half, clock out and go home. But with Bite Ninja, we can, and you don't even have to feel bad about it, because what we can do is we can pop people out of this restaurant and into another restaurant, maybe the next time zone over. So you could do Eastern time zone, Central, Mountain, Pacific. And then by the time you finish Pacific time zone, it's now time for dinner time, and you just kind of start back over. So it makes this industry that's traditionally extremely inefficient, and it makes the cashiers much more, it puts them in a spot where they're there when the restaurant needs them, and they go to the next restaurant when demand falls off a cliff.
And we can do our in-store ordering as well now, so it doesn't just have to be drive-through, does it? We've got screens that can do orders when I walk into a restaurant, take my order, tell me where to sit, and then the waiter, waitress will bring me the food. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, it's basically digitizing the entire user interface for restaurants. So in most any way an order can come into the restaurant, Bite Ninja has a solution for that. And it's a little different than traditional gig tech companies, to where it's all back-end performance management. All of our ninjas are pre-certified to work in those different stations and for those different accounts before they ever pick up a shift.
And some of the things we're seeing over here, and I know, again, we've had this conversation offline, but employment's really difficult for certain roles. So hospitality clearly have had a really tough time across the world because of lockdowns and COVID. As we speak today, there's new variants about and lots of worry, I think, about where that's going to lead. But that industry, hospitality, so if we think about restaurants, quick service, hotels, really struggling to recruit. Clearly in the UK, we've had Brexit as well, so we've moved a lot of people out of the UK and those jobs still remain vacant. Cost of wages have gone up. We have a thing in the UK called national living wage that's gone up, so everybody who's on the minimum pay has kind of a 6.6% pay rise. That'll keep growing. And I think you guys are experiencing the same thing over there, aren't you, in the States, in terms of really difficult to hire?
Yeah, definitely. It's it's no secret that that's happening. A lot of costs are rising across the board, so the wages are going up for people. And the crazy thing, when we first started this, we were thinking, okay, we'll have our pricing set a certain way, and we felt that it was high. And then just a few months later, nobody was even asking about kind of how that dynamic pricing system went, because there just was nobody there at any price point at all. So Will probably has a good bit of insight as well with the restaurant side.
Yeah, what these customers are coming to, I say customers, the restaurants are coming to us and saying, I've got this family business that's been open for decades, and please help save our business. We're cutting back hours, we're closing certain days of the week, and it's really, without Bite Ninja, some of these businesses can't keep the doors open. And so from a restaurant point of view, the manager right now in the States, if you're able to staff at all and turn your open sign on, you're probably very shorthanded. And what that means is very long waits during the rushes, so the customers are not really happy. You turn on Bite Ninja, though, and it kind of flips a switch. So instead of begging cashiers to come in and work, now the restaurant posts a shift, and work from home jobs are really in demand here. It's a lot more people wanting to do that. So now a restaurant posts a job, and it's not uncommon to have 10, 12, 15 people all bidding on the shift saying, pick me, I want to work. And it's really, the restaurants love it to have that option to have a guaranteed staff, as many as they need, when they need it, and not have to worry about being shorthanded.
And there's benefits you're seeing as well around upsells, isn't there, and average transaction values from your team when they're working for those clients?
Definitely. Well, I mean, this is one of the reasons we like working with you at Rethink Productivity, is because these are things that are your bread and butter. But when you have somebody completely focused and dedicated to taking an order, getting it right, and giving them a good experience, even a 10-second lag or a 15-second lag per customer coming through the drive-thru is losing sales, not just because you're not getting as many sales per hour, but the line moves slower. And some people who are just maybe ordering for themselves just get out of line and go somewhere else. And so we had some really cool metrics come in when we were running this in the lab environment, or it was a real restaurant, but during holidays. So Father's Day weekend with Bite Ninja versus without Bite Ninja, the sales increased by 56%. July 4th came around and sales increased by 83%. And it was just a mixture of having somebody who is trained to upsell in a very natural way. It's somebody focused on moving that line along. And as soon as somebody pulls up, there's zero lag. Somebody can just immediately greet them and move them forward. So it is more efficient, but it's definitely a boost to top and bottom line.
Yeah, I love the flexibility of people being able to kind of plug in and plug out based on the demand, because that creates real flexibility and stops people locking in those base shifts. So where's the future heading for you guys? Because we've talked a lot about restaurants, but in my mind, you could potentially use this as hotel reception check-in, maybe checking in at an airport. The opportunities of these first contacts that you could, I call it outsource model, seem endless almost in an environment where we're going to struggle ongoing for labor.
Definitely. Well, we've got, I guess we had some secrets that will come out at some point. Will and I were already plugged into a few other industries where we had built similar models and put those on hold while we were developing out Bite Ninja. And so hospitality is definitely a no-brainer. I mean, if you look at hotels or a lot of these other places, there's many positions that don't necessarily have to be on premise to work. But even in the restaurant side, we're looking at some of the other roles that we're able to do remotely, and we've been testing for the last several months that'll roll out in the near future. There's a lot of exciting things to where Bite Ninja could eventually just become a place where people go for opportunity, and we go and find a lot of the demand and build it into the system.
Anything to build on that, Will?
Yeah, just say that it's also reaching just a different group of people. So, I have restaurants, and when we say, "Hey, would you like to come work in my drive-through restaurant?" Usually I just get like, "No, thanks. I can't do that. I don't have a babysitter, or I don't have, you know, I can't get to work at all." And a lot of these folks that are doing it, maybe it's not their full-time career. It can be. I mean, you can just grab shift after shift, but it's kind of, think of it like an Uber driver or a Lyft driver, where it's like a part-time gig. You kick back on the couch, pop open the laptop, take a few orders for the restaurant while the kids are playing over in the corner. No need for a babysitter. As soon as rush hour's over, you just fold up the laptop and go about your day. And it's not really disruptive. You don't even have to put on a uniform. The uniform is basically the virtual background that we put on there. That is their uniform. There's so much flexibility. And also, there's traditionally with restaurants, you've got this, it's like the schedule, and it's a manager handing out schedules saying, here's when you're going to work. Well, what if you say like, well, I don't want to work this weekend. I want to go to the lake or something like that. Usually there's this butting heads between the manager, like fussing at the employee saying, you have to work. With Bite Ninja, you don't have to do that. It's up to you. When do you want to work? You grab shifts. If you wake up in the morning, say, I've got a headache, I don't feel like working today, you don't have to work today. And there's, even if you have committed to a shift, well, now it is your shift, you own it, but you can return the shift basically to the shift pool. And there's this group of people that are just basically fighting over the shift, saying, hey, I'll take it, I'll cover for you. And what it does is it makes this for a much happier work environment, and everybody that is maybe not enjoying their work life in the restaurant, a lot of those folks will love Bite Ninja and the freedom that it provides.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm an interested bystander, but also looking forward to doing more work together. I think this has got massive potential and massive legs all over the world, because it's kind of country agnostic, isn't it? As long as you've got people there and it's all agreed with the organisations. You can have people in different parts of the world taking orders, potentially different languages, all those things kind of come into play, don't they, because of the remote nature?
Definitely. I think that's one of the coolest things we're looking forward to, is seeing opportunity spread, not just geographically. Will mentioned the other part. I mean, it spreads individually. Or demographically. We've got people who've just never given thought to being able to enter the workforce again, who are excited to be able to provide for their family. And so being able to see that, and then that spread geographically into different cultures and different, bring more ideas to the table. It's going to be a really exciting time.
I'm disappointed though, Will, that you said there was no uniform. I do have this vision of people sat there at home in a full-on ninja outfit.
That's right. Maybe we can do the like the iPhone memojis or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody likes to be on camera, so a lot of folks will grab those audio-only shifts if they're kind of camera shy sometimes.
Yeah, we'll have to send you some pictures from early on. We were experimenting with filters that just made people appear however they wanted to appear, and we still have that kind of in our back pocket, but it made for some humor early on.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for, I think, is probably the moral of that story.
Right.
So just to wrap up then, guys, if people want to find out more about Bite Ninja, Orin, where's the best place to go?
BiteNinja.com is a good place. We're also at a official Bite Ninja on all the socials. So good places to find us is there.
And you guys are both on LinkedIn as well, aren't you?
Correct.
Yep.
Good.
And that's from a restaurant point of view or a cashier point of view. Send both groups to those sites.
Absolutely. And we'll put those in the show notes so people can just click on the links. And final question from me, and we'll do both of you. We'll start with you, Will. What's the best bit of business advice you've ever been given?
I would say it's move fast, change before you have to. The family business is all about tradition and doing things the way they've always been done. And that may have been fine before, but in 2021, I'm afraid that may not be good enough to keep your business open. You got to adapt with technology and try to be more efficient.
Good, like that. You've had a couple of seconds to think about it. Orin, what's yours?
I'd say it wasn't given to me personally, but John Maxwell talks about how everything rises and falls on leadership. And so being able to pay special attention to bringing in people who have good qualities there, but also people who can cultivate other people, and then being able to build that into the Bite Ninja platform is just something that's extra special out of that, but it's definitely held true.
Brilliant. Guys, it's always a pleasure to catch up and talk. Again, I'd urge people in the restaurant industry outside to reach out, have a chat, see what the art of the possible is, because I think that the labour, we'll call it shortage, the gaps in certain industries in terms of being able to recruit is going to get worse. So it's good to jump on board early and make the most of it. Orin, Will, pleasure to speak again. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Evans.